What's up guys, and welcome back to Dark Matter. So it's been a long time coming, but I'm finally here with the iPhone 15 Pro review. So I actually pre-ordered this thing pretty much as soon as pre-orders were available for it, and I gotta admit, I was not expecting the natural titanium color to be as popular as it ended up being. Kind of seems like it's become the most popular color. Now usually I go for whatever black color they have available, or like space gray or whatever. Except for the 12 and 13 Pro, I went for the blue on those years. But the color options on the new phones just seemed like they were kind of tailor-made for me. I love black and gray of anything, and these all seem like a version of black or gray. Even the blue color they went with this year is almost black in most lightings, or gray kind of. But I've slowly been adding more titanium accessories into my rotation as it is, so it just kind of felt natural to go with the natural titanium color this time around. I would say my only hesitation I had with that natural titanium color is just how much of a goldish kind of hue it put off in the promotional materials. And even when I first got it, I noticed a lot of gold to it, but that was mostly in the lightings that I was around at the time. Most of the time when you're carrying it, it's very neutral kind of gray color, and I guess it does kind of have that sandy hue that titanium has to it in some lightings, which is perfectly fine. I think it looks really dope. I'm just gonna kind of go ahead and discuss more on the design since we're already on that topic. The brushed titanium looks amazing. I've had several customers at my job say that it looks cheaper, but I don't think it looks cheaper than the stainless steel personally. I've always liked the brushed metal look better than the glossy, like fingerprint prone stainless steel of previous years. It looks super clean when you first take it out the box, but then after a few hours of use, you've got smudges, fingerprints just covering the whole device, especially if you go with the dark color like I usually do. This device does not show any fingerprints. I mean, it might show very few fingerprints kind of on the metal rail, but it doesn't look bad at all. It doesn't look nearly as nasty as my black 14 Pro would get after only a few hours of use. Of course, a major benefit of that new titanium frame is how light the phone is, and I will say this phone has been way lighter than my 14 Pro. I would get so much fatigue on my pinky that it would rest on, and just my hand in general, from that stainless steel weight. Not only that, but the sharp edges on the 14 Pro, they've dramatically reduced the sharpness of the edges on the 15 Pro while still keeping the flat design. So in my opinion, that's way better. It just doesn't dig into your finger as much. It's comfortable to hold for long periods of time. And let me tell you, I'm on my phone all day, so hand comfort is one of the main things. I also, at the end of the day, tend to use my phone with the MagSafe battery pack, and that is way easier now with the lighter phone. It's something I didn't think of. It would make my 14 Pro almost unmanageable. And I'll tell y'all, I even dropped the 14 Pro with the MagSafe battery pack on my face one time, and it did not feel good. I had a bruise for days from that, so it's way better to have a phone that is lighter just on its own, because then when you have, you know, a case, a battery pack, anything else attached to it, it's still gonna remain lighter than the older phones would have. So I talked about how they slightly rounded off the edges on the metal frame. They also did the same thing with the front glass. It's slightly rounded at the edges. In my opinion, it may make it less durable, but it makes it way smoother to use in hand, especially when you're like swiping stuff to the side, like you tend to do quite a bit on iPhones. It just meets the metal a lot smoother and feels a lot smoother in hand, which I prefer over the previous flat design. Now I gotta be honest with y'all, this is one of my favorite iPhone designs since probably the iPhone 4, which is my all-time favorite iPhone design. And that has a lot to do with just how clean the new titanium finish looks, how light it is in hand. It's a perfect match of form and functionality, and I think that's when iPhone does its best with designs. The previous flat design has always been cool with me since they first introduced it with the iPhone 12. It just wasn't as great to hold in the hand because of those flat, sharp edges and the weight of the stainless steel. So the function of it just wasn't quite there, unfortunately. Now they've kind of perfected it with these rounded edges, the lightness of it. This is a super comfortable phone to hold, and I love it. I want to go ahead and get into battery life just because that was one of my biggest gripes with the 14 Pro. From the beginning, my 14 Pro's battery life was not good. I had to charge multiple times a day just to make it through the day, and I would constantly find myself using low power mode, which I had never had to use on the iPhone before. And granted, I get, like, I'm on my phone all day. I work for a phone carrier, so it requires me to be on calls all day and using, you know, group chats, stuff like that all day. So based on my use case, I would definitely expect the battery to run down pretty fast. But I've worked for this phone company for a long time, and I've never had an issue with all my previous iPhones up until the iPhone 14 Pro. It was the first one where I had to start using low power mode all the time, charging up 2-3 times a day just to make it through the day. And yeah, it was just really frustrating and really kind of ruined the experience of the iPhone 14 Pro for me. I wouldn't say that the battery issues are completely fixed on the 15 Pro by any means. I will say that it's a lot better. I typically only have to charge my phone up maybe once during the day. I don't have to use low power mode near as often. Now, of course, your experience may kind of vary from that, but in my experience, the iPhone 15 Pro's battery life has definitely been better than the iPhone 14 Pro. Maybe just still not quite as good as the phones I've had in the past. Now, since I mentioned overheating, I do kind of want to talk about the overheating issues that people were having when the iPhone 15 Pro launched. Full disclosure, I haven't had any overheating issues since I got my iPhone, but my girlfriend's iPhone has definitely had the overheating issues, and many people on X and other social media platforms were talking about overheating issues with theirs. Now, Apple did release a software update that was supposed to fix a lot of these overheating issues. Again, I can't really report from personal experience as I've never had those issues, but I will say that my girlfriend's iPhone still tends to get pretty hot, and I have seen a lot of people on social media still saying that their iPhones are getting hot as well. So just know that if you get the phone, it's very possible that you could have some heating issues. Maybe that would be a case where you would just put in a warranty claim on it and get it replaced. It seems to be kind of just a case-by-case thing where some phones are overheating and some don't have the issue at all. So I don't really know what that's attributed to, but just know that if you get this phone, you may or may not have that issue. Just get it replaced under warranty if you do have the issue. Now, one glitch that I have had since I got the phone is there are random moments where the phone won't wake up from a black screen or will get frozen on the lock screen, and I'm forced to do a hard reset on the phone just to get it to work properly again. I just feel like more people should talk about these software glitches with iPhone, because you know, the iPhone is a great product, but it doesn't come without its flaws. And a lot of people just kind of like to portray it as flawless, or as if like they never have glitches, or it just works. And sometimes it just doesn't work. Now I gotta talk about the elephant in the room with the iPhone 15 Pro, and that's the new USB-C port. So thank you to the EU for this new iPhone feature, the USB-C port, but no thanks. Look, I see how having USB-C on the iPhone could definitely probably improve things in the future, and I've enjoyed having USB-C on my iPhone for a few little reasons, but overall I don't think it's as big of a change as everyone's making it out to be. For me, Lightning was fine. I'm not transferring data through cables a lot to my computer. I usually use AirDrop anyways, but on top of that, Lightning was just easy. There was no extra connector inside the charging port that could possibly break. The connector was super simple and it was almost impossible to put it in wrong. The only major improvement we may end up getting from that is faster charging speeds, but even still, we're only limited to 20 watts as of right now, which is the same as what Lightning could do. And then you have the other issue of replacing all your old Lightning chargers with USB-C, but what if you still have AirPods that use Lightning, or you still have a MagSafe battery pack that uses Lightning, or you have AirPods Max, or so on and so on? There's still so many accessories that I have that still use Lightning. And look, I'm not a famous tech YouTuber. I don't have the cash to just replace all my previous Apple accessories that charge off Lightning. So guess what? That means for the foreseeable future, I'm gonna be using USB-C and Lightning still. And look, I'm not trying to say it's a bad thing that iPhone switched to USB-C. I still think it's cool that you can use your same charger from your iPad for your iPhone now. You can use an Android charger for your iPhone. I just think that it caused a lot of disparity especially considering the fact that they don't include a charger in the box anymore. And I'm not hopping on the hype train like a lot of tech YouTubers who can replace all their stuff instantaneously with the USB-C version. I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't just upgrade to the iPhone 15 series for that USB-C compatibility, because iPhones are gonna have it from now on, and Apple's only gonna start to catch up with the amount of accessories they offer that are USB-C. We still have a long way to go before you can really only use one charger for everything. I do want to go ahead and talk about one of the other main features that they've added, and that's the action button instead of the mute switch. This is another one of those features that I feel like was kind of overhyped. I haven't gotten a lot of use of it, to be honest. I think if anything, it's just not a life-changing feature. It's cool that it can be more than just a mute switch now. I've struggled finding a use case for it. I initially put it as a focus mode, but you can only put it as one focus mode. So I have a work and a personal focus mode for when I'm at home, and I like to switch back between the two. I can't do that with this. I can only set one focus mode on it. I tried it as my personal, but then when I get to work, I have to manually go in and put that I'm at work. And I know you can set it to do like location-based stuff. I'm not really into that, so I haven't done that. But I just struggle to find a use case for it. I will say that the UI in the settings menu for the action button, like setting it up, it's very kind of different than what Apple has done in the past with software, but it is still really cool to me. I think it looks dope. Some people think it looks trash, but I'm not in that camp. I think it looks cool. I'll briefly talk about the cameras just because with my specific model, the 15 Pro, they really didn't change anything from the 14 Pro. And I'm not a photographer, but yeah, the pictures look great on here. I'll try to throw in some examples of those. Video, as always, looks great. I'm hoping I can switch eventually from shooting on the iPhone 14 Pro to the iPhone 15 Pro, just because I think it'd be cool to be able to write directly to an SD card with the USB-C port now. But if you're just a regular phone user, I mean, iPhones have some of the best cameras in any smartphone. You're gonna love this camera, and you're probably not gonna be using the feature to write directly to an SD card. So I wanna just use the rest of this review to kind of talk about who this iPhone is actually for and if it's a good time to switch to it right now. Who should we start off with? Let's say like you've been holding off to get a phone. Maybe you still have like the iPhone 12, 12 Pro or older than that. To be honest, you're probably gonna be the group that is going to appreciate the differences the most. Just the camera system on the iPhone 15 Pro is a massive upgrade from anything pre-iPhone 13. But that's before you even get into the display improvements. If you're coming from an iPhone before the 12s, you're still stuck with the LCD screen. The difference between LCD and OLED is so dramatic that you're gonna love any of the new iPhone 15 models. Colors are just so much better on the OLED panels. The blacks obviously is something everybody talks about with OLED. They're gonna be a lot deeper. You're gonna have that always on display where you can view the time from a glance, the notifications without having to unlock your phone. And even if you're coming from a 12 or a 13 series, they've improved the brightness so much that you're still gonna notice a dramatic difference in the screen. Still kind of going off the displays, they've also greatly reduced the bezels around the edge of the screen, and I feel like that's gonna be especially noticeable to you if you're coming from an iPhone 12 or another older model. Another group of buyers who I think would have huge potential to purchase this phone are Android users. Look, Apple has been steadily bringing more and more Android features to the iPhone. We saw widgets come from Android, we saw the always on display come from Android, and possibly the biggest one yet is USB-C. The first iPhone that switched me from Android was the iPhone X, and that was just the first iPhone that I thought really actually closely matched the features of Android phones at the time. It was the first iPhone to include an edge-to-edge screen that Androids had already had, so it looked futuristic. The gesture-based interactions I thought was super intuitive. These iPhone 15s, I feel like, are an even better example of that for Android users. As far as software goes, you've got a lot of the same features now, which I just discussed. You've got the USB-C now, so you don't have to throw away any of your old chargers. You can use them all with the iPhone now. I just feel like there's never really been a better time to switch from Android to iPhone, or vice versa for that matter. They've gotten so close on features, on price, on software implementation, that there's very little reason other than ecosystem to not switch from one to the other whenever you want. And I feel like if you have an Android phone and you're actually willing to put in the week or two that it takes to learn a new operating system, you would really enjoy the iPhone 15 Pro and what it has to offer. And I mean, I've always kind of been of the mindset that no matter which one you use, Android or iPhone, you should always try the other operating system at least once and just see how you like it. I mean, just see what's cool about it. What are the benefits of it over the other? That also just helps prevent a lot of bias in smartphones, but that's a whole other story. Regardless, I think this would make a great first iPhone if you've always used Android. I think it would be really easy to get used to, especially with all the features now that they've added from Android. Now, the very last scenario I'm gonna cover very quickly, and that would be if you own an iPhone 14 series phone. Now, the reason I'm gonna go over this very quickly is because I honestly believe if you have an iPhone 14 series phone and wanted to upgrade to the iPhone 15s, you've probably already done that. And if you haven't upgraded yet, I can only assume it's because you're waiting to see if all the glitches have been worked out since release, or maybe to see if it's just really worth it to upgrade after it's only been 1 year. And I gotta say, there's a few situations where it is worth it. It's worth it if you're able to get a good carrier deal. I know they're offering several promotions where you can get like basically the new phone for free if you trade in your old phone. And I mean, if you're getting a free phone, why not go ahead and upgrade? There's gonna be plenty of features with the camera upgrades, with the USB-C that you'll appreciate. Probably the biggest feature that you're gonna appreciate with this coming from the 14 Pro is the weight. I mean, that's made the biggest difference for me. I just can't emphasize enough the difference that the weight makes. I mean, you're using your phone all day, you're constantly holding it. If you're like me, you're using your phone with one hand a lot and it gets tiring after a while. But with this lighter phone, it's way easier. Even the Pro Max feels even lighter than the 14 Pro to me. I don't know if like technically it's lighter, but it feels lighter, and that makes all the difference to me. The battery life, like I talked about earlier, would probably be another reason you would upgrade from the 14 Pro. It is a little better, like I said, so if you're having major issues with your battery on the 14 Pro, maybe go ahead and upgrade to the new one and you'll get those other features as an added benefit. But overall, I mean, if you're happy with your 14, you're not really seeing any battery drain, if you're not really having any weird issues or glitches, then I think it's a good year to go ahead and wait. In fact, I think most years these days it's good to wait 2 to 3 generations before you upgrade, just because you're really not seeing much difference. Even me, I mean, I've been upgrading every year since I was first able to buy a smartphone, and it's been getting harder and harder for me to justify those yearly purchases. But that doesn't mean that it's not worth the upgrade if you really want the new phone and if you can get a good deal on it. And I think that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on the iPhone 15 Pro. I really just wanted to give you guys an honest review and not really get wrapped up in the specs and the analytical details. I just wanted you to kind of know what the real experience of living with this phone is like, and you know, if it's worth it or not for you to upgrade to it. With that being said, let me know in the comments, what phone are you using right now? Are you looking into getting the iPhone 15, or do you think you're gonna go ahead and wait for the next generations? As always, go ahead and give me a like if you found this review informative or helpful, and subscribe to follow along for more. We'll see you guys in the next one.